Hello, BookTube, and hello, fellow lovers of romance fiction. This is Chatting Category Romance. This is a channel that I'm doing in collaboration with Sarah, the Bookish Knitter, where we talk about category romances. So, not the mainstream romances that you might see at your bookstore, but the category stuff put out by, for instance, Mills and Boon or Harlequin in the United States that have subcategories. That's the whole name. That's the whole name of the game. Harlequin Intrigue, Harlequin Presents, Harlequin Heartwarming, Harlequin Supernatural, Harlequin Historical, that have prescribed page limits, prescribed category parameters for what the authors can do. And those parameters tend to lead category romances to be looked down upon, but Sarah and I are both big fans of them. And they provide lots and lots of reading enjoyment. So we decided to make this channel to sort of talk about them. A little slow getting off the ground for content-wise, but that will fix itself. But I want to give you another book review today, because I bought a bunch of category romances when we started this channel. And today I want to talk about this book, Game of Courtship with the Earl by Paulia Belgado. This, as you can see, is part of the Harlequin Historical line, which I've been a fan of for 40 years. I really like the Harlequin Historicals. They come out with 4 a month, and they aren't all what you would think. There's been, from the beginning, I think, a fairly concerted editorial effort to make sure that they all aren't just regencies every month, that the historical period bounces around at least a little. I've often found some really entertaining writers that way. This, for instance, despite the costuming on the photo cover there are many mistakes here, obviously. Many mistakes. The facial hair, the haircuts of both of them, the costuming of both of them, but you get the general point. And this book is not a Regency. This is set in the Victorian era. This is set in the 1840s. Specifically to take advantage of the boom that was going on at the time in industrialization, both in the United States and in England. And the United States comes into it because our main character, Madeline DeVries, Maddie, is a Pittsburgh heiress. Her father runs an ironwork in Pittsburgh that is very successful. So she is an extremely attractive entry on the marriage market in England. She and her sister Carolyn are in England to be on the marriage market, but they're very different. The two sisters are very different. Not much is made of that in this book, which leads me to think that Caroline, the younger sister, either has already had a book of her own or is going to get one, because not much is made of the two sisters, except to underscore their differences. Caroline is an angel. She is pure. She is simple. She is coquettish. She is conventionally beautiful. Whereas Maddie is not. The book goes out of its way to sparingly use the term mannish, but she is not only taller than almost any other woman that's in any ballroom that she goes to, but also more forthright. Her father, who really deserves a book of his own, didn't care that his oldest child was a girl instead of a boy. He didn't care. He introduced Maddie to the world of the foundries and the steelworks and the business, the practical world of where the money comes from and how to keep it coming. The intricacies of miniature schnauzers. And she is armed with all of that when she comes to London. And the combination there, it's not making her a success on the marriage market. Let's just put it that way. Carolyn is far more of a success than Maddie is. Maddie's not a success because she towers over not only all the women, but a lot of the men, and has no use for their expectations of what she's going to be like. No use at all. They're expecting someone like Carolyn. They're expecting a fainting, little, delicate poppet, and she's not that. Now, that puts her perfectly in line with 21st century heroines in fiction, and the reader will love her right away. But, she is still a creature of her time, and she would like to be getting more attention, a little bit more success. She doesn't want to disappoint, for instance, her mother, who is taken straight from the pages of Pride and Prejudice and thinks this is horrible. She's been a little bit appalled by her take charge daughter anyway, and thinks it's appalling that she's not meeting with much success in the ballrooms of London. And into this picture comes the Earl of the title here, Cameron McGregor, who's the Earl of Balfour. And we first meet him, we see him when Maddie does. She's looking from an upstairs window, and she sees a giant. He's physically gigantic. he also towers over everyone in the ballrooms, and he towers over her, but not by much. They are both of stature together. But because he's a man and because he's entitled, it's not that big a deal for him. Although he has every bit as little patience with the fripperies of high society as Maddie does. Every bit. He wouldn't be putting up with them at all, except for his sister. Cam has a sister. Lady Persephone is her name, unfortunately. And he wants her to be a thing in London society. And he meets Maddie and her sister. And right away we see what's going to be a foremost characteristic that Cam is going to have throughout the book, which is that he epically, painfully, outrageously can never say the right thing. Never. It's absolutely comical the way the author does it. Totally believable. There are people like this, more men than women. He cannot say the right thing, even when he knows that he can't and is trying to say the right thing. It still come out just awful. And the Maddie's nerves have already been rubbed raw by her lack of success in this world where she doesn't even want to succeed. She's already on edge. And unfortunately is primed to unload on Cam whenever he says the wrong thing, which is often. So their encounters, the perfect thing you want in a romance like this is to be looking forward to the fireworks between the two main characters, and you definitely will be. I don't know if I have an example here of that. I'd love to read you something. Oh no, this was just me. Oh God, I shouldn't admit this. I was just turning down the page to note where I was in the book. It's going to make me a monster in some of your eyes. But the plot of the novel gets moving when actually, do I have something to read to you? I might. No. No. Okay. Well, I don't have anything to read you, but I will in future reviews. I don't have any part from this book, but it's wonderfully done. But Cam and his sister come up with a plan to help Maddie to succeed in the ballrooms of London. And that is that Cam will pretend to be wooing her. He will pretend to be pursuing her as one of the many suitors her mother would like her to have. He doesn't mean it, but he is assuming that because he is an unencumbered Earl, so he's not known as a wastrel, he's not known as a debtor, that his attention will attract the attention of other men to Maddie. So that plan is undertaken. She thinks it's crazy, but he and his sister think that it can work. And so they undertake it. And if you have read romances along those lines, the fake courtship line, you're going to know what's coming. I want to stress, that is not a weakness of this or any other Harlequin category romance. That you know what's coming is not a weakness. That's part of the fun of romance novels, is how well it's done. Romance novels track in only a handful of plots and plot gimmicks. They are not about breaking new ground. They don't want to. So there's going to be an element of comfort. That's what makes this genre so popular. It's by far the most popular genre in the world. And one of the things that makes it the most popular is that it is comforting. It is completely enjoyable to read. Now, the key that you're going to want, and you saw it in my last review, you see it in Sarah's reviews all the time, is that even though those plots and gimmicks are really familiar, they can be done poorly or so-so or really well. The whole of romances, especially category romances, they traffic in execution. And this is done really, really well. It would work a lot better. The plan that Persephone and Cam and Maddie come up with would work a lot better if it weren't for the fact that our main character, our hero, is forever putting his foot in his mouth. But he is. So even their fake courtship runs afoul of that flaw all over and over and over again. It does work. Of course, you're going to be able to see it attracts the wrong man to Maddie. And another standard element in the fake courtship is that the two realize that they have feelings for each other. Maddie knows that right away. We learn that Cam knows that right away. We don't learn it right away, but we learn that he felt that way immediately. So what you're going to be rooting for here as a reader is you're going to be rooting that the plan does not succeed. You're going to be rooting that the last thing you're going to want by the time you reach page 100 of this book is for the plan to succeed and Maddie to find some dumb husband. You want Cam to be her husband. And it's wonderful. So my first review for this channel was a little bit on the iffy side. This one is not at all. I had a blast with this. I wish that a little more were done with the DeVries family. I wish that a little more were done with the culture clash. That, of course, a generation after this book takes place, that culture class, that particular culture class, where American heiresses go to London in order to find titled husbands, and titled husbands go shopping for American heiresses in order to bolster their finances. In 40 years after this book takes place, that's the whole world in London. That's in the upper crust of London. Not so much here, but a little more historical exploring would have been nice. But after a while, this author is so... I don't think I've ever read this author before, but she's so good at the growing, spiky chemistry between the two main characters that after a while I didn't mind at all. You don't go to Harlequin historicals for that kind of historical fiction. You shouldn't. If you do, you shouldn't. The history elements of Harlequin historicals are usually a light overlay. What I mainly ask of writers in this or any other kind, a lot of the mainstream romances, the non-category romances that I read, are historical too. And what I mainly ask is that the author not draw me out of the story with a howler. And there's nothing really like that in this book. So my second review on this channel is positive. Now, Sarah and I thought about concentrating. We will concentrate on this channel on newer releases, but I think I might throw in reviews of older category romances as well, because this is a lot of fun. And I don't really do book reviews on my own channel. So I will leave a link to Sarah's channel down below. Should I leave a link to my own channel? Are many of you coming here who don't know my channel? Maybe you're coming here because of romance? I'll leave a link to both, just to be sure. And I will be back. So I'll do another video for you. But this was a thumbs up for April category romances. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.